Hi, everybody. Welcome to this solar eclipse report. I'm really excited to deliver this crazy news to you. Lots of really good stuff going on. This is probably going to be one of my on the long side videos, so I did break it into chapters for those of you who don't want to stick around for the whole thing. But this is the way I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be explaining what it is. I'm going to be discussing some of the lessons that we're meant to be learning, and then I'm going to break it into each sign. But those signs are primarily the rising signs, to a lesser degree your sun and moon. You have to understand that. So for example, Aries is having this. Let's just give Aries an example. The full solar eclipse is happening in the 9th house because Aries is 9 houses away from Sagittarius. You understand? So you are going to resonate with it wherever that energy is for you, but it's primarily driven by the rising sign. So if you really have no clue about your houses and your rising sign and all that stuff, but you still want to grab the information, then definitely listen to at least the beginning portion. And then you could certainly apply whatever energies that I'm discussing to your part, any part of your life. And you're going to know, you're going to be like, as I'm talking, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I definitely see where that might be a thing that I need to look at right now. Okay. So why don't we just dig right into it? Guys, we haven't seen energy like this it's a debatable thing, right? I mean, some people are saying over 500 years, some people are saying 1,000 years. Does it really matter? It's been a long time. Okay. It's been a long, long time now. And it's not only the sun, we have solar eclipses, we have full solar eclipses, right? We have these things, but it's the way that everything is speaking to each other in the sky that's very, very unique right now. And I just want to say, going in, this is an energy where seeing the glass half full rather than half empty is going to make a huge difference in how you experience this energy. So let's get into this full Sagittarius solar eclipse and what it actually means. So if you live in New York, or if you live, California's getting hit like late December 3rd, New York December 4th, most areas December 4th. It does depend where in the world you live, but it would be late in the evening on December 3rd or into the 4th, right? Just know that the energy is around that day. Believe me, you're going to be feeling it before then. So the solar eclipse is just like it's just like a regular new moon, right? Where the moon passes between the earth and the sun, except the solar eclipse is a lot more powerful. You hear everybody saying, oh, it's like a full moon on steroids, whatever it is, right? It's true, right? Because the moon is darkening the sun, right? It's truly darkening the sun. Moon is emotion, sun is our focus, right? It's our life, it's our source, right? So that's being darkened, but for what reason, right? So we really need to understand this, and we really need to understand what else is being, who is speaking to who in the sky, so that we can understand our experience. You don't get a stronger, by the way, you don't get a stronger aspect in astrology than the sun conjunct the moon. You just don't. I mean, that really is about your inner world and your outer world sort of meeting, and these big existential questions. Am I doing what I'm meant to be doing in my life? And how well am I resonating and feeling good about what I'm doing? So this is this particular December 4th occurrence is more powerful and longer lasting than a regular new moon, because it's a total, right? It's not we had that partial lunar eclipse. That was really powerful as well. But the strongest planetary influence on the solar eclipse is this challenging quincunx aspect to Uranus that brings a lot of unexpected changes. So when I break out into the signs and everything that I'm mentioning here, I'm going to be mentioning individually what houses the particular signs are going to be experiencing it in. But let's just speak for the general collective right now. So this quincunx aspect to Uranus. Remember, quincunxes are all about, I got to find a solution. And Uranus is like, shake it up. We need to do things a lot differently. So there's a lot of unexpected changes are being at least begun now. I really, I'm feeling it. I know a lot of you are too. Definitely put in the description, in the comments below, if you're feeling it either overtly or on a more micro level, because I know a lot of us are feeling sort of the rumblings of something new coming in, and it's almost this sort of low-key, maybe not so low-key sense of anticipation, right? So we need to stay super, super open, because tension and anxiety can be reduced big time by adapting to the changing conditions with a very open mind and flexibility. Again, going back to that, trying to stay glass half full. So the need to make changes in response to longer term unexpected setbacks is definitely going to be a thing now. So if you saw your life going in a particular direction, even just 6 months ago, and things were seeming to it felt like anyway, things were starting to crystallize and they were starting to become a lot more distilled so that you were a lot more clear on where it was that you're going. Then all of a sudden, as you're walking along the path, it just felt like almost like a broken car, like the pieces just started to fall off. And a lot of people were experiencing these sort of unexpected setbacks and difficult changes. And it's because of that Saturn squaring Uranus energy that we have to talk about, right? So we're going to talk about that. But there is this light at the end of the tunnel with this Mercury sextiling Saturn. This is really good. It helps us to sensibly plan our way through this difficult eclipse phase with a lot of caution and a lot of perseverance. I like this energy. It's going to give us all of us an invigorating burst of energy where we're going to feel a lot of energy, a lot of initiative. And I'm going to talk about after this, like how this is just going to be growing as December sort of rolls out. And I know a lot of you are feeling it now. It's almost like this warrior energy where it's like, is this right for me? Because if you're not good for me and that's not good for me, I don't know if that could stay in my life. Even if you wanted it to, it may not be able to. So it's this kind of energy, recognizing this. Oh, but we're going to be so like our own best cheerleaders in this energy, which I think is pretty cool. And this also brings a lot of, believe it or not, in all of this crazy energy, emotional balance, right? Emotions aren't pushed to the point of being irrational. They're just not. I know a lot of people are not saying that, but they're not. It's just because it's the way everything is balancing out. And that means that we have a lot of possibilities on the table, right? Which I really like. There's going to be a lot of reasonable clarity as to what that next step, that next correct step on your path it is that you need to take. And because of this, this is a great time for new beginnings. This is a great time for making a fresh start, turning over a new leaf, and starting anything new, because especially I want to be discussing this. I'm going to be doing a separate video on the Scorpio Taurus axis, the nodal axis. A lot of you have been asking me to do a video on that. And so I plan on doing that, but not yet. Let's get through this, and then I'll probably do it like in the middle of December. But wherever understand right now, the South Node is still in Sagittarius and the North Node is still in Gemini. So wherever that Sagittarius is, we've been asked for the past past 17 months to release, to sacrifice something from that energy. It doesn't matter if you're a Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus. We all have Sagittarius somewhere. If for no other place than in the 9th house. Sagittarius is the landlord of the 9th house with Jupiter. And what is Sagittarius energy, right? We're in Sag season right now. Sagittarius energy is about belief systems. It's our moral code, our personal philosophy. It rules religion, higher education, higher mindedness. Sagittarians are the philosophers of the zodiac, right? It has to do with importing and exporting, advertising, marketing, launching. It has to do with foreign land, foreign cultures, foreign travel. It has to do with our in-laws, right? It's a lot. But can we also talk about the shadow manifestation of Sagittarius? It could be quite manipulative and quite wanting to push one's agenda, because it's the element of higher mindedness. It's almost like wherever our Sagittarius is, and we all have this somewhere. Again, it's no, I don't need to look at that differently. I know what I'm talking about. I'm good. Why reinvent the wheel? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? It's kind of that energy, which is why Gemini is such a nice balance for the Sagittarius energy. So we're needing to pull our heads out of our asses when it comes to, and we all need to do it, where we feel very dug into something needing to be a certain way, and understand that there are maybe other elements that we need to consider, other perspectives that we need to consider. And we're sort of, wherever we feel dug in our life, right? It's very likely, again, I'm speaking specifically to those of you who don't know your house placements. Just think about that energy and what it means, right? Where do you feel very dug in? being able to think about things a little differently, being very open. This is your best friend right now, because this is the thing. We are finishing up this nodal axis, and this full solar eclipse is beginning it. This is starting. And even though Sagittarius is now passing the torch of being the south node of the moon over to Scorpio until the middle of January, we're starting to feel this energy now. So right now, wherever our Sag is, we're needing to close something up. It's time to close the chapter. We're done here. It's time to move over to Scorpio and Taurus land, where we need to start now over the next 2 years, wherever there's a lot of drama, a lot of anxiety, a lot of rumination, a lot of endings and beginnings and upheaval. It's time to lose the drama, become more Taurus, balance it out, and become more grounded and more responsible in the areas of our life where we feel like we've allowed too much drama to drive the bus, right? So that's the time period that we're going into. I will speak about more about that when I do that video and how it will be impacting everyone a little differently. But right now, this solar eclipse in Sag is wrapping up this almost 2-year cycle that we've been dealing with this axis of having to close out a belief system, of having to, and the thing is, as it closes out, the energy rises to the top. So what's rising to the top? Our belief system. And we're really looking at that really closely right now. Is this good for me in the long term? It really is all about that. And remember, that energy, that's a 9th house energy. It sits in a natural square to the 12th house of where we keep ourselves small and where we martyr ourselves. So there's going to be this tension, depending on what's going on, what else is going on in your chart, where it's like, if I stay in this, am I going to end up sacrificing what I really want over the long term? This doesn't mean just about your relationship or just your job. It could be in any area of your life, right? So we'll talk about, again, specifically how it might be impacting different people. So what else did I want to say about this? So this December 4th solar eclipse and that November 19th, the partial lunar eclipse, that's going to be lasting until the solar eclipse on that's going to be hitting on April 30th of 2022, guys. So the energy between like a couple of weeks ago and now, remember I discussed in the last video about the partial lunar eclipse. This is more about, this time period is more about a seed cracking open, where down the road, especially like 2 years from now, you're going to turn around and you're going to be very reflective, and you're going to say, that's when that thing began. That phone call, that interaction, that argument that happened in my marriage that kicked off this whole thing, that situation that happened with my colleague that made me and then the snowball effect and made you quit, and ultimately like switch tracks at work. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, something happening where it just became a source of tension, but it originating now. It doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. It doesn't work like that, but the change is starting now, and you're going to see it's just going to be rolling out. So it's so important to stay very, very open. Okay. So I do want to talk about the aspects and what I'm calling the patterning here. So the eclipse, Saturn, Uranus form an aspect pattern that represents kind of like, I'm calling it a learning triangle. Others might call it a crisis challenge triangle. Who cares? Tomato, tomato. I'm choosing to be all about the learning aspect of it, because there's so much to learn from this energy. It's crazy. So you want to think about in your life, where have you been experiencing repeated cycles of, I'm going to say, challenges or things that haven't felt comfortable? Where have you been experiencing that? Maybe even conflict, whatever you want to call it, okay? Not comfortable. It hasn't been cozy, right? And then in that very space, that's a very space, you have the conflict, and then you've been striving for a solution. And then you're trying to blend for harmony. And then it comes back around again. Here we go again. It's still not working. All right, let me try this time. Let me try to blend it, right? So it's this idea of, the conflict, the solution, and harmony. It's kind of like this triangle that's been constantly attempted, right? And we've been going, it's right, with this intention to learn, grow, and advance ourselves in some way or another. Now, this eclipse is going to rise this challenge to the surface to be dealt with. Okay. Now, if you view this as an opportunity, you can successfully find a solution to whatever problem presents itself and then reach a state of balance. Look at it as an opportunity to learn. If you view this as a negative kind of thing or from a victimhood perspective, it's going to be really, really hard for you to manifest anything. In fact, it's going to end up either creating a block or it can create a situation where things are taken away from you. And I don't say that to be like scary Mary over here. I'm not doing it for that. You just have to understand how this energy works. This is very, very profound. Okay. So it depends on your attitude towards this crisis or challenge. There is a lot of opportunity for learning and for growth. The passage through each phase of what I'm about to discuss, okay, each step offers a possibility to find a solution that wasn't possible before. And that this is what I mean by like, it's a page turning energy right now, right? We're going to be doing things different because different information is going to be available to us. We're going to be feeling pushed to break new ground in an area that has seemed completely stuck or peppered with many, many false starts over the past 2 years in that relationship, in that job, in trying to launch that business, having to do with going after the person, with that lawsuit, whatever it is, right, in your life. So why don't we talk about the conflict portion of this is really the Saturn and Uranus thing. Now, I want to just say before I discuss this, I was kind of conflicted over whether I was going to even bring it to the fore right now, but I think it's very important too, even though it's going to be in an exact square on December 24th. But even like now, it's still in a close enough conjunction. And the day of this total solar eclipse, it's only going to be 2 degrees apart. So we're totally going to be feeling this. I'm not going to go into extensive detail about what this means. That I'm going to save until the end of the month. But it's enough for you guys to know that this energy right now. It's bringing unexpected setbacks and a lot of restrictive change. It could bring a kind of change, the change that you don't want. That's where the discomfort could come in, right? Where it's like, yeah, but I don't want to not have that. I kind of really love that thing. I love having that in my life. But wait, I really want to do A, B, and C. And it makes it harder, right, to make the kind of changes that you really want. And this energy makes it very, Saturn square Uranus, it's a tough energy. It's very rare. It's very tough because it kind of, it's like, no, you don't really want that. And you're like, no, really, Grandpa Saturn, I really do. And it's like, no, that's probably not good for you in the long term. Let's slow down and think about things differently. It's going to definitely be very, very frustrating. Intense. Okay. So you want to stay very open-minded, very patient, so flexible. And I know it's hard, right? So flexible if you can, because what at first seems like challenges can absolutely be turned into opportunities. And I'm not saying that to be hokey pokey or, be kumbaya, guys, come on, it's not so bad. No, seriously. And you're going to be able to look back and say, yeah, you know what, it's better that thing didn't work out, right? And you're going to be able to get rid of any sort of like negative, restricted, any sort of limiting, whatever kind of thing in your life. But like, connecting it to tarot, this is like the the 8 of Swords and the 9 of Swords had a baby, right? And then we had the 10 of Swords, right? I mean, it's kind of like that, but it's that slow gradation kind of thing where it's like, I don't feel like things are ever going to change. Wait a minute, I don't feel like I'm responding very well to this external stress. 9 of Swords, 10 of Swords, I think we need to have an end to this challenging time period. And the thing is, even if it's really difficult, you're going to be much lighter on the other side of it, right? So that really is what we're going to be dealing with, that Saturn Uranus kind of thing. So there's going to be a lot of conflict there. Now, at the same time, we are going to be having this new moon conjunct Mercury. That's going to put a lot of focus on your thinking, right? Because Mercury is our mind. It's the way we think. It also rules communication. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Communication, problem solving, lots of thought. It also rules short distance travel, right, through Gemini. It brings a lot of mental alertness, quick thinking, adaptability, lots of curiosity, that Geminian aspect as well. So you want to expect an increase in personal interactions. It's from a general perspective. This is on top of whatever house it's sitting in, but having to do with your neighborhood, your siblings, early schooling, I guess, for those of you who, because I really don't think I have anybody like up into high school really watching, but you know, parents, those of you who have like grade school children, lots of busy energy there, but also Sagittarius, which is the full solar eclipse, is rules higher education. So there can be a lot of busyness. And I know for myself as a professor, it's a very busy time, obviously, because we're dealing with finals and stuff, right? So whether you work in higher education or whether you're a student, anything like that, those of you who work in the law, the legal profession, advertising, marketing, anything having to do with importing, exporting, anything like that. Very, very busy time, right? But very busy time, because that Mercury ruled energy sits opposite of that Sagittarius energy. So this is going to be a very busy eclipse phase with lots of appointments, lots of meetings, social activity, making plans, buying and selling, negotiating, meeting new people, little busy butterflies like that. So that's not bad, right? It's going to be a very busy time. There's going to be a lot of knocking on a lot of doors, meeting with a lot of people. Now, we also have this new moon is quincunxing Uranus. Remember, this is all about trying to find solutions, but this can make you very nervous and very tense, right? Because Uranus rules electricity, right? So it's like, you know, so we can find it really hard to relax. Our intuition senses the change, senses it, you know, and we feel it, right? This kind of like low-key, not so low-key narrative sort of running, you know, a lot of it, depending on what house it's hitting you, you might have trouble sleeping, trouble relaxing, you know, you lay down and relax and it's like, okay, you know, and you're not going to feel comfortable to just hang out and do nothing. Right. And this is the kind of energy that we're going to be experiencing here because of Uranus. I know a lot of you, and the thing is too with this, it can feel very exciting, but it can also feel a little scary, right? At the same time, because you're not really sure what you're expecting something. There's an element of anticipation, but you're not really sure. A lot of you are going to be feeling pressure to change coming from someone with some power over you. So that could be a boss, that could be an investor, that could be, you know, somebody in education, a teacher, a lawyer, you know, somebody who has some element of power over you. Something unexpected can force you to change your routine, your behavior, your plans, and adjustments needed here in this energy, whether you are forced to make changes or you experiment and find a way forward for yourself. Because a lot of you may be doing this by yourself, depending on where it's aspecting. I feel like I'm being called to say, like, I just feel like Geminis and Capricorns particularly going to be doing a lot of reaching out on their own, of experimenting. There's going to be a lot of experimenting going on. But there's going to be this needing to deal with people who are like in more powerful positions. So it's very interesting. Just be very flexible, be very cautious about taking risks in this energy as well. You know, Uranus is that very shaker up kind of, it could almost be perceived as like a very riotous energy as well. You know, rules Aquarius, which is the energy of the humanitarian, but it's also the energy of the revolutionary, right? So you want to make sure, because you're going to feel very, very pushed in this energy to bring something new to yourself. And it can be very frustrating if you're dealing with somebody who has power over you, who you feel, at least from your perspective, you feel is somehow getting in your way or limiting you in some way. Next, we have the new moon sextiling Saturn. I like this. This is going to have a very grounding influence. When did we ever say, thank you, Saturn? Right? We should thank him more, because sometimes he brings a little bit of a quell to the energy that is very welcomed. I think, you know, this is going to reduce the unsettling effect of Uranus for sure. It gives caution, it gives patience, it gives perseverance, it gives a very strong work ethic, right? Remember that Saturn rules Capricorn, and that 10th house energy, which is all about work, public reputation, standing in the world, and long-term goals. So that's where our grounding element is going to be coming from. This is an excellent eclipse, honestly, guys, to meet your goals, complete serious or difficult tasks. Like if you need a lot of it's interesting because Uranus can be very scattered, but with Saturn in there, Saturn can kind of like hyper focus us into one area. So we can be like, okay, what's the issue? Where's the holdup? What's the problem? Come on, let's go, let's go. And we're going to be able to figure it out. You can absolutely earn, by the way, the trust and respect of other people in this energy, which is so nice, especially those in authority. Parents, other parents, teachers, bosses, colleagues, really nice energy for that. Advancement and recognition are also very, very possible here, especially in your professional life, obviously. Basically, this is a time for hard work because you're going to feel like you're wasting your time if you're relaxing or you're partying. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of focus on just moving forward and doing the right thing. This is really not, a warm and fluffy energy. Do you know what I mean? It's more like pragmatic. Are you good for me? Is this good for me? That kind of thing. Okay. So just something to keep in mind. So it's those energies speaking to each other, right? I feel like the solutions are coming through. Well, the conflict is Saturn squaring Uranus. Okay. The solution is coming through the new moon quincunxing Uranus. Right. And the result, the patient outcome is going to end up coming with this new moon sextiling Saturn. And that's what I think. Now, something that I want you to keep in mind here is like this learning triangle, right? That I'm mentioning here. Every passage that we make through each, right? So Saturn squaring Uranus, and we have the new moon sextiling Saturn. For each time we pass through this energy, because our energy is to pass through each one individually, it doesn't happen at the same time. Every passage through, right? Each phase is just a different opportunity for solution that previously didn't exist before. Like breaking new ground, like, opening yourself up to a different way of thinking. But for some of you, it's just going to be straight up like brand flipping new opportunity that you did not see coming. There was no way that you could have known that this opportunity was going to be hitting just a couple of weeks ago. So it's very cool in that way. For those of you who are interested, the tightest aspect in this configuration is definitely the new moon quincunxing Uranus. It represents communication and the provision of information that usually leads to new experiences. So we really are going to be opening ourselves up to this new experience. This time of new energy. If there's a lot of new, there's going to be a lot of firsts for a lot of you, a lot of just new experiences, right? Let's just leave it at that, which I think is really, really good. Now, this is going to be pushing you to experiment, and the newly acquired discoveries that you're going to realize through experimentation is going to lead you to establish a new harmonious state, but it's going to be established in a new unstable and maybe insecure or unsure energy. So this could be, again, very exciting or petrifying, or likely both at the same time, right? Because there's going to be this, you feel the new chapter starting, you feel it beginning. Don't worry if you're not having everything just land at your feet right now. Don't worry if things that you had your mind set on and your eyes set on to manifest got to a certain point and then started to fall apart. That's the way this energy is. So if that's been your experience, you're on point. Stay open. Okay. Don't block yourself. So let's talk about this. So Los Angeles, December 3rd, 11:43 p.m. Those of you try to stay up and check it out. Guys, very, very cool little piece snippet that I read, that I loved this idea. It's 114 seconds long, and it's only going to be visible in West Antarctica, parts of South Africa. We'll see the partial part of it, but it's 114 seconds, guys, and that breaks down to 6, right? In numerology. And in numerology, the 6 represents happiness, represents harmony and stability. But all of that comes with responsibility and obligation. And in the Bible, the number 6 is the number of incompletion, right? It's not complete yet, not complete. So it's missing perfection and completion by one day. So it's almost there. But right, but making it past that 5, that number of curiosity and adventure, this energy makes it such an appropriate sort of segue into the Scorpio and Taurus nodal axis. Right, because that 5 is about, curiosity and adventure and drama and, conflict and then resolution and trying. And that's very Scorpio. It's very Scorpio rules, anxiety and a lot of excitement and change and transformation and all of this excited stuff. Right. But we're going to be called over the next 2 years to go exactly where that Scorpio energy is and become a lot more responsible and pay attention to our obligations and again, become more Taurus. And again, that is beginning now, right? After this full solar eclipse, we're going to start to feel the energy now. Okay. Not going to be doing the changeover of the nodes until the middle of January. I don't want you to be confused by that. Okay, so now I'm going to break it out into all 12 signs, and we are going to start with our Aries friends. So I'm just going to be discussing the part of each sign's wheel where they're going to be experiencing the most. Again, rising signs the most profoundly, to a lesser degree, sun and moon. Okay, so again, let's start with our Aries friends. So Aries, we have the new moon conjunct Mercury going on in your 9th house. This is all happening in your 9th house. So you see me looking down here. I have your wheel. Okay. So for you, it's all about the 9th house. And this is where that Sagittarius energy is going to be pushing you to release something about your belief system. What do I like it for, though? Hey, Aries, those of you who are trying to launch something and you've been in the space of negotiating, releasing in that Sagittarius energy could be the release or the launch of some sort of business or some sort of product, as 9th house is the energy of negotiating and launching and marketing and advertising. So awesome for those of you who are looking to get, and if you've been hitting like one wall after another and it's just been so frustrating for you, this is a very nice energy to roll something out in a very positive way for you. Where's that gift though really going to be coming in though is in your 3rd house. Right. So the 3rd house has to do with your siblings, all modes of communication, your neighborhood, short distance travel, early learning something from a grassroots space as well. So those of you who are brand new in business, or you're learning something brand new to sort of segue into, where you're doing maybe a webinar, a seminar, that's really more 3rd house, because this would be like grassroots learning, basic fundamental things. So that's where the gift is going to be, right? A lot of gift in signing on the dotted line, doing business as that kind of thing. Really nice for that. Also great energy, like if you've been very dug into a particular belief system, if you've been in a very discordant space with your siblings and your extended family, like cousins. I'm not talking about aunts and uncles, they're more your 6th house, but your cousins or your siblings, you've been in this discordant space, releasing something that you believe needed to be so or needed to be true. And to be honest with you, who do you not really communicate with in your life, right? All modes of communication, whether it's like literally speaking maybe to a partner, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, a friend, an associate, anything like that. Wherever there is a focus on communication in your life, there's going to be this very, and I feel like many of you have been feeling it already, actually, where you've been pushed to change the way you think, change your the way you believe in something. And look, is it easy, considering that not only is this something that you're being asked to do, because wherever Sagittarius energy is, we tend to be a little blind to where we're dug in. But this is actually happening in the home of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, right? So this is very much about recognizing that if you're going to move forward in something in a really effective way, there's got to be this revisiting of your mindset and your belief system. And how you handle it. Some of you are going to be making a lot of big decisions as far as moving to a foreign land, into a foreign culture. Some of you are going to be, finally pulling the trigger on that. Pulling the trigger on launching something, or on the other end of the spectrum, some of you are going to be making the decision to close the chapter on maybe a long distance relationship, or some sort of business opportunity that you've been trying to launch, and you may realize some sort of project, you may realize, you know what, it's just not happening right now. Timing is not right. Let me go back and figure out a different way of strategizing this, and maybe try to launch it at a different time, right? And I do want to say that for those of you who are Aries, especially rising, you have Taurus in your second house. And so the nodal axis is going to be switching. That North Node is going to be switching from Gemini come January into Taurus, which is the house of the money that you make from the work that you do, as well as your self-esteem. So for whatever it's worth, if something is not working out for you right now, and you're making the decision where you feel like you almost have no choice but to kind of stop working on something right now, understand that the energies are very supportive over the next 2 years of you figuring out a different strategy in how to actually manifest that, because then the South Node is going to be in the 8th house of endings and beginnings and negotiating, and there's going to have to be some sort of like restructuring and release of how you've been negotiating and looking at these things, but it's going to end up in your favor. Okay. So I see that as a very, very positive kind of thing. Some of you may be actively working on changing your connection in your relationship, your energy with your in-laws right now. Some of you may be in that space as well. But what else? And I think that is really what I wanted to mention. I mean, we have the new moon conjunct Mercury in your 9th house. So lots of thinking going on there in that 9th house energy, as we just discussed. The new moon quincunxing Uranus is going to be going on between your 9th house, and that Uranus, that shocking surprise energy, is in your 2nd house, the Taurus 2nd house. So there's going to be some sort of surprise having to do with the money that you make from the work that you do, or something surprising that's going to be impacting your sense of self and how you feel about what matters to you and what it is that you value. And then the new moon is going to be sextiling Saturn. That's going to be happening between that 9th house again. So it's a lot of 9th house energy, and the 11th house of your salary, of goals and gains, right? And Saturn does rule work, right? And so that is just something to keep in mind as well. It's an Aquarius energy, very future focused, that Saturn is in, but Saturn does rule work. So for a lot of you, that is a lovely energy, honestly, because whatever you're releasing, even if it feels uncomfortable, it's going to end up opening up opportunities for you that can end up increasing your salary and really better feeding your 5 or 10 year plan, right? And your energy of goals and gains, and you're going to be making new friends, but there's going to be a lot of sticking power to whatever it is that you're manifesting here, and that is the gift of Saturn. So that's what I have for you, my Aries friends. Okay, so now let's go on to our Taurus friends. Okay, so Taurus, for you guys, it is all about the 8th house. So you have a lot going on there. You have Mercury, you have the sun, you have the moon, you have the South Node, all of those energies there. So what is the 8th house? Not the easiest house, Taurus, not going to lie, right? We have to understand what it is, and then we're going to apply, and then you apply it however you see fit. Because the 8th house is big. On the one hand, it's a relationship house, and then on the other hand, it's a money house, having to do with other people. So as a relationship house, it rules intimacy, how you show up as a we in partnership. So the blending of your money with a partner's money, the blending of what you desire in intimacy in a partner, communication, how you guys show up together, right? It's this idea of blending. It's also a money house. The 8th house also rules taxes and debt, the stock market, inheritance situations, insurance payouts. If people are investing in you, you getting money from other people. The eighth house also represents the house of where there is some sort of culmination dollar amount attached to a lawsuit settlement, right? That dollar amount is very eighth house. Okay. So if you're divorce or alimony situation, or even any other kind of lawsuit. So with Sagittarius in there, a lot of you can be realizing finally the end to a long drawn out kind of legal situation, and that will be very welcomed. But there is this idea of release, and because it is the house of debt, a lot of you may be focused on paying off debt, really wanting to save money. But there is this energy of some sort of sacrifice that might be there, right? Maybe having to do with taxes. If I don't know who's doing their taxes yet, but I guess some people are. I guess if you do quarterlies, right? But anything like that, right? So it could have to do with that, but this could also indicate for a lot of you in relationship, this could have to do with divorce. This could have to do with, cutting ties at that job. Because remember, the eighth house, the landlord is Scorpio, modern ruler is Pluto, the original ruler is Mars. So it's this very aggressive energy that requires change and transformation. Nothing can ever stay the same and stagnant around Scorpio energy or around Pluto. It's meant to always, they're meant to always evolve us, but it's where we can feel a lot of anxiety. So Taurus, I feel like a lot of you may be feeling a lot of anxiety, and this can be very uncomfortable, where you almost feel boxed in. You're like, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't, kind of thing. That's what this kind of energy in the eighth house can absolutely manifest, and where you really have a hard time figuring out a situation, right? Because you have to release something, but at the same time, it is in this sort of semi-square, right, with this Libra energy, so which rules fairness, right? And so you can absolutely be sort of in this space of I'm not sure, right, kind of vibe. But the thing is, stay open and understand that whatever is happening right now, there is better on the other side of it. And whatever you're experiencing now, I promise you, is absolutely temporary. And you're going to end up so much better on the other side. So if you're feeling a lot of tension, just know that you'll be able to get through this more difficult part. And then you'll be able to see onto the other side of it a lot more clearly come the springtime. Okay. Okay, so what else did I want to talk about for you guys? Yeah, so that's that new moon conjunct Mercury. So a lot of communicating, a lot of thought, mental activity, having to do with discussing relationship, lawsuits, the legal practicalities of some sort of situation. The new moon is quincunxing Uranus. So what I like about this is a lot of you Taurians are going to be waking up and you're going to be like, holy hell, I can't stay here anymore. That's Uranus in the first. It's like, can't do it anymore. I gotta go. I can't be in this relationship anymore. I can't be in this job anymore. I need to do something different. It's literally like you're going to feel squeezed out of your own space, right? And I know that sounds very dramatic, but I think those, especially those of you who are Taurus risings, to a lesser degree, sun and moon, but you're still going to be feeling it as well, where you feel like, I just don't think I can do this anymore, that kind of thing. And it's almost surprising to you, right? Because with Uranus in the first, it's very hard to say, oh, let me sit down and give it more thought. It's very hard, right? It's very hard. Now, the new moon is going to be sextiling Saturn. That Saturn energy is going to be in your 10th house. So it's interesting because that's a very nice energy having to do with career. So to me, that tells me that some sort of new opportunity is going to be coming in that's really nice. And then you have Saturn, that Saturn squaring Uranus, that's between your 10th house and your first house, right? So that square, that tension, that big tension between your career and your first house of self. This is what's interesting to me, Taurus, what I'm seeing here is that you're going to get offers in, but there's going to be other things going on in your life or in your energy where you're like, I know that's a really good offer and I know I should be really happy about it, but I don't know if I really want it. And I don't know if that's the right thing for me. And it could be that kind of thing. But look, that's a good problem to have. Not for nothing. It is a good problem, but you're going to be pushed. You have to understand with Saturn in the 10th, that rules work. Saturn rules work. It's think about your future, Taurus. That's what the Saturn in the 10th wants you to do. Right. And then you're thinking about this Uranus, this big change in your first. Where is the challenge? It's that you're going to be pushed to make a change. And that might be uncomfortable. And it could even be scary because you're part of the bull. The bull gang doesn't like change. Maybe you like changing as far as like, let's go to this restaurant over that restaurant, right? Or let me try this wine over that wine. Anything Venusian. I'll open myself to that kind of music or that kind of entertainment, right? Anything Venusian, cool. But anything that's like brings you up out of your rooted earth space, you kind of have to do it, guys. And this is the thing, you guys rule the body, right? You rule the body. And the thing is, Taurus energy, it also sort of rules like the lower part of the face into the neck area. And a lot of Taurians that I've been dealing with, in my work, because, privately in my private readings, I notice a certain sort of what I call a very Kyo aspect to their voice, to their throat chakra. Kyo is I've studied massage therapy. I was a massage therapist for many years. And in Chinese medicine, Kyo is like empty. There's a deficiency. It's almost like a raspiness, an emptiness, a vacancy, almost feeling like the throat chakra is closed off. And, and that's what a lot of Taurians are experiencing, because it's very difficult to reason out this need for change and have it not manifest somewhere in the body, So you want to be careful of that and just pay attention to how you're feeling and pay attention to where it is that you feel like the change is very necessary, okay? Particularly in those Aries, Taurus. Okay, thanks for joining me. See you in the tarot readings. All right, on to our gem friends. Gem. Okay, it's all about relationships and contracts, okay? 7th house. This is where you're feeling it first and foremost. So we have the new moon conjunct Mercury in the 7th. Okay. So that new moon emotion conjunct Mercury, thought, thinking, process, mental, thinking about the marriage, that close friendship, that close family connection, thinking about that contract, thinking about your clients, your patients, thinking about these are the people that the 7th house deals with. Okay. Lots of thought there. The new moon is going to be quincunxing, problem solving energy, needing to do it. Uranus, right? Between your 7th and your 12th, you are feeling pulled in another direction. The Uranus energy in the 12th, we've been talking about this in the readings. Yes, it's interrupting your sleep. Yes, it's making you feel like, low key, like on edge, not so low key. It's like, trying to relax. Relax. I can't relax, right? Who could sleep more than 4 hours a night, right? It's very interesting energy here. But this is the thing. It's like you have to look at where have you been keeping yourself small? Where have you been saying, well, it's not going to work out anyway. Why the hell even bother? I thought A, B, and C was going to work out and that didn't work out and I'm not going to bother. You want to get in front of that negative narrative and just like put a big ass kibosh on it. Okay. And then we have the new moon sextiling Saturn, and that's happening between your 7th and your 9th house. And this is great for negotiating, for advertising, for marketing, for launching. This is great for learning new things, foreign land, foreign travel. This is good stuff for you guys, right? This is great for those of you, 7th house, if you're married, having to do with your in-laws, 9th house. If you've been having any kind of troubles with them, really good energy for that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a very good energy though for navigating any of those contracts. And this is really good energy as well for those of you who are in a serious relationship, right? You're sitting down and saying, look, I need to discuss my belief system with you. I need to explain to you what's not feeling right to me. And that's a lot of you are going to be pushed to that in your relationships and any of those 7th house relationships. I don't only consider that marriage. I think anyone that we have a soul contract with is 7th house. Your best friend, a sibling that you're super tight with, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like anybody like that, where it's like, look, I feel like, like the more time passes, the further away this connection we're having is feeling in alignment with what I want and what I feel like is okay for me. I'm actually starting to feel like maybe this isn't okay for me. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then finally, we have that Saturn square Uranus. I mean, that, you know, that's like the big jam of the whole thing. So that's happening between your 9th house and your 11th house. So your belief system is, you know, sort of in tension with your salary. Being able to negotiate something is not in alignment with your salary. It's not in alignment with your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, or you're having a hard time feeling like you fit in with everybody else. Jem, you might be feeling like I'm not really fitting in, right? It's because this square 11th house has to do with your friends and the people that you deal with in whatever organizations you're involved in. If you own your own business, the people that you work with there, we almost feel like you don't fit in, right? Almost like you're like the odd man out, right? With that 9th house squaring that energy. It's like, well, my belief system and my values, I feel like I'm like, you know, a one-man island here. And why can't I find anybody who really like gets me? And it could be a very introspective, which is interesting, right, Jen? Because you guys are by nature very sociable, very out there. A lot of Geminis are very shy. We do have the shy Geminis are very alive and well there. Again, it does depend on where your sun is placed in your chart, but very kind of out of the ordinary for the Geminian energy. Not that when you're with people, you're very friendly, you're doing your own thing, right? Again, as I always say, making friends with rocks and walls, right? It's Gemini energy. But yet there's this element of loneliness, right? There's this element of feeling sort of outside everything right now. And there's a lot of processing. But what you have to understand, particularly because you are the north node of the moon right now, there is a very nice, tidy little gift that's going to be left in your sense of self when this energy transits out in the middle of January. So you just be patient with the energy, but you may be feeling that right now. And the thing is, this can absolutely push you to just be like, the hell with that relationship. The hell with that job, the hell with this group of friends. I don't need, you know, could be in that space. And it's not like a woe is me kind of energy, but it can absolutely be this sort of like, why have I been subjecting myself to this stuff when it's really not good for me and I can't not see it anymore? A lot of you guys are going to be in that space. And that's actually going to be energizing you, though. I need for you guys to understand this is not like, let me lay down and cry for now. You might be, I mean, you might have to go through that depending on what else is in your chart, but you're going to feel very energized to stand up for yourself in this energy, which is very important to understand. So that is what I have for you, my Gemini friends. I'll see you guys in the tarot readings. Hopefully I'll get all of those out by Monday. Okay, going on to Cancer, or crabby friends. For you guys, it's all about the 6th house for you. Cancer risings, especially to a lesser degree, sun and moon. So 6th house is an important house. It just is. It covers a lot. It covers your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. It covers your pets. It covers your daily work experience. It's the house of practicality. It's the house of being of service as well, right? Virgo's the landlord, ruled by Mercury there. So problem solving, but also, you know, excuse me, being of service as well. But there is this absolute sort of, and a lot of energy is going to be paid to, right, because Mercury is in there. So there's going to be a lot of thought right now. Cancers having to do with your health. Also understanding the connection between your mind and body and how that ends up manifesting in your health as well. So there's going to be a lot of processing that. So that new moon is going to be conjunct Mercury. So lots of mental energy going on in that 6th house. And some of you are going to be maybe meeting with doctors, meeting with personal trainers and nutritionists, maybe massage therapists, or maybe getting into meditation, starting a new fitness routine, cleaning up your diet, whatever it is on that end of the spectrum, while others of you may be doing a lot of communicating at work, really, making connections, getting out there and throwing yourself into things, right? There's going to be a lot of change going on in that area for you. Now, the new moon is quincunxing Uranus in the 11th house. So that shake-up energy, that shocking energy is coming in from the 11th. Now, this could be good. It could be challenging. It depends on what else is happening in your chart. But for some of you, this is boom. Here's money, here's a raise. Here's an opportunity that's going to end up impacting your 5 or 10-year plan. Some of you are going to be having that. or it could be a sudden shakeup, right? That ends up creating the situation where you're like, okay, so that job didn't work out, or that situation didn't work out, or that opportunity, whatever it is, wherever I thought I was going, that fell apart. And so with the quincunx in that sixth house, it's problem solving straight away. You're not going to be sitting there and saying, poor me, that didn't work out. Nope. You're going to feel so fueled to do a lot of problem solving, to say, okay, that didn't work out. Let me move on. Let me figure out what else I can end up manifesting here, right? So say you were in a job and you were getting paid X amount of dollars, and somebody came in and maybe cut your salary, changed your hours, maybe you lost your job, something happened in that way. And you're like, okay, now with the quincunx, it's all about you must problem solve. You can't think your way out of this one. And with it happening with the sixth house, a lot of you are just going to be like, boom, get another job, or coming up with something that's going to end up impacting you. Some of you may be getting some sort of surprise shakeup in that 11th house energy. Again, just keep it in mind, the 11th house is Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus does rule technology and science, right? It is one of the energies that is connected to medicine. So a lot of you, for example, may be realizing if you're trying to do like in vitro fertilization, and if it didn't work, a lot of you are going to be like, hey, you know what? It's time, sixth house. Let me go to a new doctor and see if I don't have something else cooking in there. If there's a reason why maybe I'm not able to conceive right now, right? So these can be things that that might be going on for our Cancer friends, all the different ways, right? For the sixth house. The Sagittarius, again, you're going to be asked to release something in this area. So some of you may be releasing your job. Some of you may need to say goodbye to a pet, I hope that's not the case. And if that's the case, I'm so sorry. But that is what this Sagittarius energy is asking us to do, is to release something in that energy, right? So to make a change in that area. Okay, so thank you, Cancer. I will see you guys in the tarot readings. Okay, on to our Leo friends. Leo rising, especially to a lesser degree, but still sun and moon. Okay, Leo, it's all about the fifth house for you. So fifth house is the house of joy. We're saying, Jackie, what are you saying? I need to release joy from my life? No. Fifth house has to do with children, falling in love affairs, hobbies, any entrepreneurial efforts, anything that you do that you create. It's the house of creativity as well. So kind of like I was saying to Aries, what I do like about this energy, for those of you who are looking to start your own business or to launch something, that's a release, right? And because Sagittarius has to do with the negotiating, advertising, marketing, and launching, those of you who are looking to launch some sort of entrepreneurial effort, I actually think this is going to be a fabulous time for you to do it. It just may not happen in the way that you thought it was going to happen, or on the timeline that you wanted. That's okay. It's still going to happen, which is really, really nice for those of you in that space. Some of you are going to be actively in the space of just needing to let go of some sort of love affair that you were involved in, or some sort of emotional connection. We're not talking seventh house soul connection, but it's like that love affair maybe that you were you were beginning to get embroiled in, right? Or some sort of situation that even happened with your kids. It's time to just let it go. Just let it go and move on. Some of you may be having your children move away, because Sagittarius is the sign of the traveler. It can be an indicator of moving away to a foreign land, or dealing with the foreign culture. And the fifth house can represent what's going on in the life of our children, right? So some of your kids might be moving, or they might be getting into law. They might be getting into marketing, advertising, religion. Some of them may be graduating, right? The release from higher education, that is Sagittarius. Or some of them might be accomplishing something in that area, having to do with scholarship in that way as well. Or you may be as well, right? Because that's something that you would do because you really want to do it as well. but there's got to be this, Leo, there is this release and this, keep in mind the fifth house is your house, right? And so this is a very me-based energy from the perspective of Leo. This is like, I love to do this because I love to do it kind of thing. And there's going to need to be a release there. You're going to be called sort of reach across the wheel to that Aquarius energy in the 11th house. And you're going to be asked to think about other people a little bit more, to release a very dug in mentality when it comes to how you do relationships initially, or maybe how you are with your children, or how you are as far as like an entrepreneurial boss, and expand the way you see something and release being very dug in that way. Okay. Now the Uranus energy that's quincunxing this new moon for you guys is in the 10th house of career, public reputation, your standing in the world. It has to also do with your long-term goals. What do you actually really want, with your life, and where is it that you really wish to go? So there's going to be some sort of surprise that comes in that space that's going to maybe even make a decision for you, right? Having to do, and again, it's not only career, it's your public reputation, it's your standing in the world, and it also does indicate something that can be going on in your first family or within your home, or the idea of home and mothering or parenting, and that impacting the way that you show up in career. Now, it could have to do with your home now, or it could have to do with the impact that that's going on with mother, or something that happened from your early childhood experience that's impacting you now. And as far as your ability to actually go after what it is that you want in that 10th house energy. And as far as like showing up in the world really the way that you want to. Some of you may be doing a lot of shadow work and a lot of going to therapy and realizing where you're needing to release some sort of false narrative that you've been carrying with you your entire life, that speaks to your worthiness or lack thereof, or things needing to be a certain way, right? And you're releasing that. A lot of you realizing that that's just some false narrative nonsense that was put into you by well-intended, but maybe not very emotionally intelligent caretakers, right, early in life. And you're recognizing that now, right? So that you're able to become the best version of yourself now at this point, and you could see where you've been limiting yourself thus far. So I actually think this is going to be a very beautiful, very life-changing transit for Leos. Leos have been going through quite a bit lately, and I think that this can ultimately end up being very good. I mean, Leo, you still have that Saturn and Jupiter sitting in that 7th house. So lots of restriction, lots of delay, lots of wondering if you're in the right thing, having a very hard time figuring out if you want to move forward and what it is that you're in. A lot of you are going to be feeling like this, but with that Jupiter hanging out in that same house, there is this element of optimism that's there. And it's like, no, I feel like maybe we could be happy if we do A, B, and C, or, and you just want to make sure that you're not trying to convince yourself of anything, right? That's maybe not as genuine as your soul deserves, right? Okay, Leo, that is what I have for you. So I'll see you guys in the tarot readings. Okay, so on to our Virgo friends. So problem solvers of the zodiac. How are you doing, Virgo? For you guys, it is all about the 4th house of home. So Sagittarius there, who's moving, right? I mean, who is moving now? Some of you may literally be stopping working. You're not working from home anymore. Some of you may be selling your home. Some of you may be, look, Sagittarius in the 4th house. 4th house is Luna, it's mother. There might be some sort of need to release something having to do with your mother, letting something go. It could be if you're in a sort of discordant space with her, kind of just letting something go. If you've been feeling very dug into your belief system, kind of really trying your very best to rise above it and see a different perspective. For a lot of you, it's going to be that. But they can be a lot of focus, maybe if a mother is ill, obviously in that realm as well. But there's going to be a lot of focus again on this idea of feeling secure for many of you, and just feeling safe, secure, grounded, right? But rooted, right? Because the fourth house is very much a rooted energy. And there's also going to be this call to release where you feel like you have at any point blamed your inability to manifest particular things in your life on your early family, on your first family, on your parents. And a lot of you guys are going to be called to release that at this point. I'm not saying that all Virgos are going to be experiencing that, but that's certainly a manifestation that can end up showing up here, because in the fourth house, that Cancer energy ruled by the moon, it's very much the stories that we tell ourselves, particularly about our early childhood, based on our emotional body, and often not based on the facts, but more about how we were made to feel by the people in our life. And then the narratives and the scars that end up being born out of that, right? And so a lot of Virgos are going to be called to release that false narrative that just has no space in your life anymore, because it's limiting. And on a very energetic level, it can absolutely be creative and energetic blocks for what it is that you bring to yourself. So you really want to think about that. Do you have any limiting beliefs about where you're at, right, in your life, and where you may be connected to earlier experiences, and just release that, and just truly, dig into the idea that your past does not have to dictate your future, but there is going to be some sort of release there in the fourth house for you guys, Virgo. Yeah, I mean, the Uranus energy is hitting in your ninth house of your belief system, your faith, your religion, your higher mindedness, your moral code. So you're changing. I mean, that to have Uranus in there, it's like, boom, wow, I'm not thinking like that anymore. I'm thinking more light. I'm lighter and more clear. This is the kind of energy that's going to be born out of this. And with the new moon sextiling Saturn, that Saturn energy, that's going to be, that sextile energy rather is going to be between your fourth house of home and your sixth house of work. So this is going to be very, very good for your work life. Whatever is going on having to do with your work, whatever is going on having to do with your health. Some of you may be actively healing from something. This is a great energy to heal. We want this with Saturn there. We love Saturn there, because with Saturn in there, whatever is going to be manifesting for you right now, even if you're not changing jobs, maybe you're just changing strategy in jobs. There's something, maybe some sort of element, if it has to do with, not with your health, if it has to do with your job. Great energy for your pets as well. You being able to figure something out with your pets if something's been troubling you about them. But that wherever Saturn is here with the sextile, there is a lot of sticking power, right? Now, we also have that Saturn energy squaring the Uranus energy that I talked about at the top of the video, and that's between your sixth and your ninth house. So here, even though things may be going well in work, there might be some tension between what it is that you're working on in your day-to-day and your belief system, or something that's being asked of you to regarding your health and your belief system. So maybe you're being asked to, get the jab and you're not feeling okay with that, or something having to do with medication, or some sort of practice that you're not really jiving with. For some of you, it could be that. For others of you, you're not really jiving with some sort of negotiating that's going on in the workplace, or there's a lot of tension when it comes to launching a particular project. Some of you may be even starting some lawsuits, and you're in that sixth house begins lawsuits, and the ninth house is where we negotiate, right? So there could be some tension having to do with that right now. Okay. But it does seem to me that because it's that fourth house is sextile in the sixth house, that you have a lot of good supportive energy for things to go your way if you are dealing with a lawsuit, for those Virgos who are dealing with a lawsuit. Okay, so Virgo, that's what I have for you. I'll see you in the tarot readings. Moving on to our Libra friends. Libra, what's going on? So we have all this crazy energy going on in your third house. So let's just talk through this. So the new moon is conjunct Mercury, lots of thinking in that third house. Mercury rules the third house. That's Gemini is a landlord there. So there is going to be so much communicating going on. You are very, very busy. You're very social right now. Yeah, okay, it's the holiday season, it's Sagittarius season. We tend to be very social, but not like you guys. You guys are going to be a different level. There's going to be a lot of mental energy based in like two directions, Libra. I feel like on the one hand, you're going to be very much looking at what needs to change. Some of you, because the third house has to do with your neighborhood, your neighbors, some of you are gonna be like, I want to move, I want to change neighborhoods, I don't want to live here anymore. Changing the way in which you communicate as well absolutely can happen here. You just may be releasing, a lot of you may be making the decision to release the way in which you get along with a sibling or a group of siblings, right? It could certainly be that, or cousins, extended family member, where you have to love somebody from across the street because they are just stressing you the hell out, right? It could certainly be that, where that's got to be released. Or at the same time, you may be needing to release the way where you might be very dug in to a belief system when it comes to your siblings and extended family, your belief system when it comes to signing something on the dotted line, right? Because that is the third house as well. Having to do with something with your neighborhood, anything like that, where you're feeling very, very dug in. You may have to release that in order to manifest that business situation, to rectify the situation with your siblings, your extended family member, your neighbors, right? And your neighborhood, whatever it is. But I have to tell you, in the third house, it really is kind of like a global call to look at where, whoever you communicate with, where do you get too dug in? And really pull the reins back a little bit and say, you know what, maybe I would benefit from thinking about things a little bit of a different way. And you guys are so good at that. But with all of this energy in your third house, it's you're feeling very protective of yourself. So, and that's kind of fueling this need to almost control the narrative at this point, right? For a lot of you. So the Uranus energy is hitting in your 8th house. So, the new moon is quincunxing Uranus. So there's got to be some sort of solution had between your 3rd house, right? Communication, and the 8th house of how you show up as a we in partnership. So remember, the 8th house is a big house. On the one hand, it's relationship. So it could be a lot of change having to do with how you're communicating in your relationship surrounding money, surrounding intimacy, surrounding the way you guys connect, right? And how you guys blend your energies together. Or there could be a lot of, there may be a need to release the way you communicate as far as an investment, an insurance payout, communicating as far as trying to figure out a solution to a debt situation. If you owe on taxes, you also may be, that Uranus in the 8th can also be, though, you may be getting a surprise inheritance, or your partner may be getting a surprise inheritance. It doesn't really matter, because either way, it's money from other people coming to you guys, or the settling of a lawsuit. Okay. So that could be a solution that comes in, right? At the same time, we have the new moon sextiling Saturn that's happening between your 3rd house, again, that house of communication, and the 5th house. So, and it's a sextile. So that kind of energy, guys, with the new moon, there's a high chance for pregnancy. So if you're not looking for that in your life, be careful. If you are, go for it. Absolutely. Especially for those of you who are Libra risings, get the ovulation kit, guys. This is a really cool energy to try to conceive for sure. The water and the energy is on your side, and the moon energy there, the moon water energy. But not everybody's in that space. Beautiful energy for communicating with your children, your adult children. Really good energy to meet a new romantic partner. Absolutely. Really good stuff. Really great energy to discuss the beginning of a business, any kind of entrepreneurial effort, getting into something that you want to do just because you want to do it, just because it makes you feel good, right? Anything like that. Now that Saturn square Uranus, that little troublemaker energy there, that's going to be happening between your 5th and your 8th house. So there can be some restriction and delay, but the shakeup is coming from that 8th house energy, and the restriction and the delay could have to do with that 5th house. So maybe you guys are not in agreement about having kids, or having, or in some sort of discordant energy regarding your children. If you're in a space of having kids, there could also be some sort of tense negotiations having to do with people financing a project that you're trying to get off the ground, or a business that you're trying to open, right? Something like that. Or maybe you're waiting for that lawsuit to settle so that you can go and open up that business that you really want to get into, or you know, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to get into, needing to deal with that eighth house energy, waiting for that divorce settlement to settle, waiting for that insurance payout, whatever it is, right? For those of you. So those are the different ways that this can manifest. But that release is coming in that third house of communication for you guys right now. Okay. So that's what I have for you guys, Libra. I will see you guys on the other side in the tarot readings, which I should get out by Monday. All right. Moving on to Scorpio. So Scorpio, you have the energy hitting you biggest here in your second house, particularly those of you who are Scorpio rising, to a lesser degree, sun and moon. So second house has to do, first of all, the landlord is Taurus, it's ruled by Venus. And the second house has to do with the money that you make from the work that you do, your self-esteem, your sense of self-value, how you nurture yourself and feed yourself, literally and metaphorically. It has to do with your work ethic. So there's got to be a release here, Scorpio. How have you been approaching work? How have you been approaching your sense of self? How have you been approaching your work ethic and things of value to you? You need to release something that hasn't been serving, that's just not serving you anymore. So if maybe you've been feeling very dug into, I don't want to do that kind of work, or I don't want to leave this, or I'm not changing my view on this particular thing having to do with any of these second house energies that I'm mentioning, you're going to be sort of pushed into a space where you're almost made to release something, right? So just, it's helpful to think about, okay, where might I kind of be a little dug in this area? So that new moon is going to be conjunct Mercury, right, in this house. So lots of thinking about this, lots of thinking, and you're going to be thinking about how you feel, and you're going to be thinking about what you want, and you're going to be trying to manifest different opportunities for yourself at this time, for sure. Now, the new moon quincunxing Uranus, that's happening between your second and your seventh house. Seventh house has to do with relationships. The second house has to do with what you value. And this quincunx means a serious tension that requires solution, that requires some sort of sitting down and figuring something out. You can't think your way out of it. So some of you may be having this Uranus shake it up energy coming in that seventh house of serious relationships. It could also be a contract coming in. So some of you can have a surprising job offer coming in where you are being made to sign some sort of contract. Maybe somebody suddenly wants to invest in you, or you're suddenly, something goes on with your patients or your clients, the Uranus energy where there's a sudden influx and you have to change the way in which you work your business, or there's a sudden decrease and you need to change the way that you work, you know, make the money that you make. All right. For those of you having to do with like money or career. Seventh house also does rule, if you're in a lawsuit, it also does rule the energy of the person that you're in the lawsuit with. It's that person. So there could be some sort of tension with that person where you guys do need to sit down maybe with a lawyer and renegotiate things, right? For many of you, it could be that, but it could also be something very surprising coming in, having to do with a relationship where you're like, okay, we have to sit down and have this conversation now once and for all. And a lot of you guys are going to be in that space. And we also have this new moon sextile, which is really good, Saturn. So this is going to be between your second house and your fourth house. So that I like this for you, Scorpio, honestly, because the sextile is going to have a lot of sticking power. And that second house is the way you nurture yourself. It has to do with the money, again, money that you make from the work that you do. And the fourth house has to do with not only your home, but your security. So I feel like a lot of Scorpios are sort of evolving themselves into a space where they're going to be bringing a lot of much needed security. And it's starting now. And this is after a really difficult run of weird luck. Not that you're not working. Those of you who are, though, aren't really. A lot of you aren't feeling very connected, or you're trying to launch something and it's not working. A lot of you just can't seem to find a job. And that is very real for so many of you. And it does seem like some sort of opportunity opportunity is going to be coming in that's going to have sticking power. So I really like that for you guys. Stay open, but understand it's going to require you releasing, feeling very dug in about what you're willing and not willing to do, but it's going to end up being a really good thing for you on the other side. So you might end up doing something that you never thought you would end up doing. Like if you would have said, Scorpio, if I said to you last year, you're going to be doing A, B, and C for work, you'd be like, woman, you're crazy. And then now you're like doing it. Okay. So that this energy could certainly bring that. I know the Saturn square Uranus is between your 4th and your 7th house. So there's something going on in the area of relationships or contracts or some sort of important relationship in your life and your ability to feel very secure in it. And there's some lack of alignment there. There is a lack of alignment, and that's big. And that's something that you are going to need to look at, because when we're talking about this Sagittarius release that's going to be happening in the solar eclipse in your 2nd house, you're going to release anything that's compromising your ability to feel good about who you are and what you're in. So if you're involved in, a lousy contract, a relationship where you're not being appreciated, any sort of like clandestine kind of love affair, anything where you're not being prioritized first and foremost in a way that makes you feel comfortable, not that it needs to be all about you, but at least where you feel like you're being, fully respected and all of that, it's going to be very hard for you to sort of maintain that space, right? So you need to release, where you feel dug in, like, no, I need that. But also you want to also look on the other side of the spectrum. Where are you allowing people to get away with stuff? Because that's not good either, right? It's like those two ends of the spectrum, right? There needs to be a middle ground there. So that is what I have for you guys, my Scorpio friends. I will see you in the tarot readings, hopefully by Monday. All right, you guys take care. Sag, woo, it's all about you in your 1st house. So Sagittarius risings, you are being pushed to release something having to do with your sense of self. Having some of you, wow, I mean, some of you may just be making big changes in your physical appearance, right? Getting that haircut, doing some sort of work. By the way, if you're going to do any sort of cosmetic work, don't do it while Venus is retrograde between the middle of December and the end of January. Like those 40 days and 40 nights of Venus retrograde, don't do anything then. Like either do it before or do it after. Just a little FYI there. But there is going to really, more than anything, I feel like there's going to be this release in the way you think things need to be on a very fundamental level in your life overall. Is that first house really? It's the house of self. It's the house of the way you meet the world, the way the world meets you. So a lot of you are just going to be sort of having these epiphanies and literally making adjustments in, and that this is possible in your personality, right? When you meet people and how you show up, where you're going to be coming off a lot more confident, maybe less cocky, if that's been a thing that you struggled with, because some Sagittarians do struggle with that. Sagittarius and Scorpios can struggle with that for sure, so that, not everybody, but there could be that. Again, whatever you think, like a release, but a lot of you are going to be releasing, because it's a moon energy, the way you feel about the importance of certain things needing to be in your life. And because it's sitting opposite the 7th house, some of you may be feeling like, do I really need to be in that relationship anymore? Or you may be realizing, oh my gosh, I totally want that person in my life. I've been feeling like I didn't, and now I really do. Or maybe realizing where you haven't been showing up as well in a relationship, or maybe where you've been showing up a little too much and you're wondering if things are equitable. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's that kind of thing, because it's very tied into your belief system, right? Because that is the Sagittarius energy, right? Particularly for those of you who are Sag rising, in that first sense of self, your belief system, your moral code is very, very important to you, right? It really is. but also, you know, understanding that when we're talking about South Node, we can be talking also about shadow manifestation. And the shadow manifestation of the Sagittarius energy could be stubbornness, it could be passive aggressiveness, and it could be very heavy manipulation. So if you know that that tends to be part of how you get your way, that needs to be released as well, right? Just, you know, keeping it real. So as far as, you know, the transits, so we have this, obviously the new moon conjunct Mercury in your first house. So just within your own sense of self, there's going to be a lot, very busy energy. You guys are going to be very busy this month for sure. Anyway, you always are the month of your birthday. And it's like when you're tired too. So it's kind of funny, but very busy time for you. Now we have the new moon conjunct, Uranus. The Uranus energy is coming in that sixth house, which has to do with your daily work experience. It has to do with problem solvings. It has to do with your health, mental, physical, and emotional health. It also has to do with your pets. So something surprising can come up with your pets, with your health, but also having to do with your daily work experience, right? Where you work, who works for you, your literal location of work. So suddenly you might suddenly change jobs. You might get a new job out of nowhere, or suddenly decide to quit so that your location of work is suddenly different. You know, something very surprising can come up having to do again with, like I said, with that health. I don't see that being a really big deal though, for whatever that's worth. It is interestingly that Uranus energy is squaring that Saturn energy though, between your sixth house and your third house. So that shocking surprise in the third. So some of you may be getting some surprise communication about having something to do with your job, but it puts you in a position where you're not sure if it's the right thing for you to move ahead with. Is that that Saturn energy is in your third house, but the surprise energy is coming from your sixth house, something surprising happening with your work. And that ends up inflecting you signing on the dotted line with a business deal, or you being able to go on a short trip. Maybe something comes up having to do with your health, right? And you're not able to go on that short trip, something surprising there. So this is these are the different ways that it can manifest. Maybe something happens with one of your pets and you're not able to go on that trip, right? Something like that as well. So these are the different ways that I just feel like that Saturn squaring Uranus, that could be a little bit of a bumpy energy there, right? That can create a lot of uncomfortable change. So again, just stay open and just keep an open heart and just stay really loving, and just understand that whatever is going to manifest itself, there is a gift in it somewhere. You know, there is a gift in it somewhere. I just hope nothing happens with any of your pets that is surprising. But it's sextiling where Neptune is sitting, and Neptune does rule disease. So I feel like it's not going to be like a big deal if something happens, but you may just have to take them to the vet. Okay, so on to our Capricorn friends. Capricorn, interesting. I feel like you're not going to be feeling it as much as a lot of the other energies, right? Because you have all of this Sagittarius releasing energy in your house of the hidden, your house of self-sabotage. I think this is going to be so good for Capricorn energy. It's not even funny. I really do. So, because you're being asked to sacrifice something that you've been very dug into in your subconscious mind. The 12th house is Pisces is the landlord. It's ruled by Neptune, right? So when we think about this bottomless ocean, right, it's all very sensitive. It's where the veil is very thin between worlds and all of that. It's a very spiritual energy, but it's our subconscious mind, and it's how we're feeling underneath everything. And it's also calls to us to dream, right? Neptune is a very dreamy energy. So look at what happens when you have these lucid emotions mixed with this fabulous dream space. Can be this almost out of touch with reality kind of thing, but which is a very funny energy for a Capricorn rising to be like, wait a minute, I'm like solid earth, baby. Don't give me any of that kind of stuff. So this could actually feel, and to have fire in the water, there's a lot that creates steam, right? So there can be a lot of confusion about how you actually feel about where you're at in your life, and you can have some confusion in being able to see and really pinpoint where you might get in your own way. But you're going to feel very pushed to do that work, but you may not have complete clarity. And that could be a little bit of a tricky energy. Now obviously we have a lot going on. We have Mercury in there, which is conjunct that new moon energy. Whenever Mercury's in the 12th house, it's like, lots of thinking going on. So Capricorn obviously can have a lot of hard time. A lot of you may have a lot of trouble sleeping, or you fall asleep, you have a hard time staying asleep, that kind of thing, in this energy. The new moon quincunxing Uranus is going to be between the 12th house and the 5th house. So there's some sort of shocking surprise having to do with 5th house, some sort of 5th house energy, something having to do with a child or one of your children, something having to do with your business, something having to do with someone that you're having an affair with or you're romantically involved with. And you put you in this 12th house space where it's like, what am I doing? I'm not sure. I know I need to release. I know I need to let go of them. I know I need to handle the situation differently with my child. I know I need to make some changes in my business, but I'm having a hard time seeing this, right? Because Neptune is very smoke and mirrors. So something is going to be happening though, where it's going to sort of catapult you into some sort of clarity here, which ultimately is going to end up being a good thing for you. We have the new moon sextiling Saturn between that house of the subconscious and the second house. So you're going to be able to see where you might get in your own way or where you might sabotage yourself, having to do with the money that you make from the work that you do. Some of you might not have anything to do with money. Maybe it's you're going to be having these realizations about where you minimize yourself when you keep yourself small and how that impacts your self-esteem and the way that you can recognize what it is that you value and how you nurture yourself. A lot of you are going to be recognizing these false narratives that have been running in your subconscious from your early childhood, maybe even from a past life. And in that way, I think that sextile for Saturn for you guys, so good. But like nobody's going to really see that. It's a very internal energy, right? So then we have the Saturn square Uranus. That's between your second and your 5th house. So that kind of tension, that's really like seriously like thinking about how well do you feel about being involved in some sort of situation, having to do with your children, having to do with some sort of love affair, having to do with some sort of entrepreneurial effort. Is it in alignment with your belief system and what it is that you want? Because that square is no joke, right? I mean, you're really being asked to look at that. Second house, what matters to you. 5th house, being involved with a romantic partnership, something going on with kids, something that you're involved in because you want to be involved in it. All right. So there's going to have to be a lot of attention paid to that. But at the same time, you're also going to be looking at, but if I stay in this, the 12th house energy, am I going to end up martyring what it is that I want in the long term? If I don't put my foot down, because you're going to feel very, very called to sort of defend yourself and be your biggest advocate right now. You're going to feel very called to do that, which is very healthy. It really is. Okay. Capricorn, that is what I have for you guys. I will see you on the other side in a day or two in the tarot readings. Okay. So Aquarius. So Aquarius, it's all about the 11th house for you. 11th house has to do with friends, goals and gains, your salary. It has to do with your 10-year plan. This is first of all, this is your house, right? You live in the 11th house ruled by Uranus. So yeah, there's a lot going on here for you guys. Releasing friends. Lots of you guys are going to be releasing friends, releasing that 5-year plan idea. A lot of you are going to be releasing your belief system and what it is that you felt that you needed. you know, down the road. Some of you are going to be releasing what you felt like you needed in relationship. Like, I had to be with this kind of person. You're going to be releasing that. Whatever it has to do with the belief system, as far as this, because it works with the fifth house energy, having to do with relationships, having to do with something regarding children. Some of you may be deciding that you don't want to have children, deciding that you do want to have children, deciding that you want to open your own business, deciding that if you're on a particular track that you want to go in a different direction, that you needed A, B, and C in relationship, and you're changing your thinking in that way. You're being pushed to release something at this time, and that release is going to begin a whole new cycle for you. So you have this new moon conjunct Mercury in the 11th house. There's a lot of thinking here, a lot of communicating with friends, a lot of communicating with people in other groups, a lot of communication as far as your goals and your gains. This new moon is quincunxing Uranus between your 11th and your 4th house. So you're really looking at your security. You're really looking at your ability to feel grounded, rooted, safe, and secure. Some of you may be feeling this tension, maybe about a move that you recently made, or feeling like you need to move, or there could be something, some sort of tension, some sort of shakeup having to do with where it is that you live, and you're needing to deal with that. And some of you might be thinking like you want to just move out, or you want to do something different. It could certainly have to do with that. Some of you may be deciding that you want to work from home, or you want to actually not work from home anymore, but you want to change the strategy in which you do work. Those are the different ways that that could manifest. And with the new moon sextiling Saturn, that's between your house, your 11th house, and your first house of self. So this is really, really good, because I feel like on a very internal level, you're going to be processing what it is that you want to do for the long term. And it's going to have sticking power. Things are going to be, you're going to be meeting people right now. It's very interesting because it's this Sagittarius solar eclipse. It's almost like people are going to be leaving your life, but like 3 times as many people are going to be coming in. You're going to be meeting a lot of people, excuse me, and getting a lot of opportunity. And it's going to end up really positively impacting your salary, your goals, and your gains, and where it is that you're going. So that's fab. Okay. And then we have that Saturn square Uranus. That's happening between your 1st and 4th house. So yeah, that 1st house of self, and that Uranus energy in that 4th house of shakeup. So yeah, I mean, some of you are really going to be considering doing something very different than what you're doing right now in order to be feel very safe and secure. Others of you are recognizing some sort of huge change in your home environment. There could be, and because it's 4th house, there could be a huge change going on with your mother as well, because Luna 4th house is mother as well. So, you know, these are the different ways that it can manifest. But something, and if it is something with your mother, that Saturn square Uranus, even if it's initially challenging, it's going to end up being a good thing in the long term. And it's going to end up being like a better situation in the long term, if that makes sense. So that's it. The release is happening in the 11th house for you Aquarius risings, especially to a lesser degree, sun and moon. But that is what I have for you guys. I'll see you in the tarot readings in a couple of days. Okay, finally, Pisces or fishies. So for you guys, it's all about the 10th house. So it's got to be this release having to do with your 10th house. Now, it's not only career, so don't get scared. I'm not saying that you're going to be needing to release a job, though some of you may be like, I want to get out of here. Some of you may be that. But you remember, Sagittarius has to do with your belief system. So you may be needing to update your belief system about your career, about your public reputation, about your standing in the world, about your long-term goals. Some of you may need to release what it is that you thought you wanted for yourself, what you thought you needed, that belief system, and really allow the change to come in that area for you. So because we have this new moon conjuncting Mercury in that 10th house, there's going to be a lot of communicating. So for some of you, it's going to have to do with your career. For others of you, it's going to have to do with whoever in your life is part of your long-term plan. Right now, for some of you, that 10th house, because it's opposite the 4th house, a lot of times it is the 10th house energy manifests in a way where it's like something's happening in the home space that's impacting the way in which you work or the way in which you show up in the world, right? So there might be this call to make some sort of change because of what's going on in your fourth house energy, right? I mean, after all, you do have the North Node in there, which is about bringing a gift right now, at least till the end of the year. So it could be that maybe some of you have a new home and you're needing to change the way in which you work. For some of you, it could be that. For others of you, it's that energy of there's some sort of shift having to do with maybe your first family, again, or where it is that you're living. And that's impacting the way that you show up in work. So maybe you moved into a new home and you have a ton of bills and, you know, you realize maybe I have to take a different kind of job temporarily, even though I could never see myself doing something like this. You might do it temporarily and it ends up being a really like a huge blessing, right? Where you end up doing something that you didn't even think of before. It could be something like that. I'm just giving that as a mundane example. You also have the new moon quincunxing Uranus between your 10th house of career and your third house of siblings, of cousins, of neighborhood, of, you know, where you live, your neighbors, learning something new from the ground up. So some of you may be in a space where you're needing to learn maybe like a new skill set in order to start a new job in this new moon energy. And this can end up being a really good thing because this quincunx, while it can be uncomfortable while you're in it, it ends up being a huge blessing on the other side. So we also have that new moon is sextiling Saturn between your 10th and your 12th. So that Saturn energy is very interesting because the Saturn energy is in your 12th house. Feeling restriction, feeling delay, dealing with the past, dealing with karma. So I feel like there's something that has happened in your past that is seriously, because Saturn is hanging out in there. It's chronos, it's time, it's restriction, it's delay, it's responsibility, it's feeling dug in, it's feeling like something needs to be a certain way. But that could be a sabotaging energy within you right now, right? And what I think is a little interesting though, is I feel like this new moon is sort of going to pull you out of it because this sextile is very, very powerful, right? With this new moon and Saturn. So some sort of opportunity is going to be coming in the 10th house, and it's going to be changing the way you think, 12th house, about your career. And then finally, we have the Saturn squaring Uranus between your 12th and your 3rd. So again, here we go back to that 12th house having to do with the subconscious, and the 3rd house having to do with, you know, your neighborhood, your neighbors, your siblings, your cousins, your, you know, your nieces and nephews, your signing on the dotted line, all modes of communication. So the way you're thinking, right, is, and there's this some sort of surprise going on though in the 3rd house. So the way that you're thinking is sort of very you know, with Saturn in Saturn does not like being in the home of Pisces, really does not a comfortable space for him at all. And it can end up being like this deeply sacrificial energy, Pisces. So you want to be careful, like if you're feeling it's okay to feel like, man, I got the lousy end of the stick. Man, why didn't that work out? I don't deserve that. Why is that going on with my siblings, 3rd house, with my cousins, my extended family, in my neighborhood? Why is this going on? Why, you know, why do I feel like my communication is never understood the way I intend it, right? That could be this kind of energy too. You really want to be careful of not getting sucked into that kind of victim mentality. You really want to be careful of that right now. You want to be careful of that and just focus on your future. Sagittarius, what did you think you needed to be or do or say or whatever for your life to be successful? Release whatever narrative you had running and welcome in a new one, because you have new energies hitting the scene. Welcome that stuff with an open heart. It might be bringing in stuff you never saw coming, but it could be exactly what it is that you need. So I actually think that it's going to end up being a very positive thing for you, right? Really, in the long term, it does seem like that for you guys. So that is what I have. A bit of a long video. Yes, I will be putting it into chapters. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Have a fabulous, fabulous full solar eclipse. And I will see you guys in a day or two for the tarot. Take care now. Bye-bye.